Welcome to Strategic Growth Council. I'm Kit Lyle. Thanks for being here. This is a podcast about strategic growth and mergers and acquisitions for the middle market. Now, Strategic Growth Council is a peer advisory roundtable that meets virtually on a monthly basis. We focus on solving members' cases or business dilemmas as a group, intentionally, consistently, and as a dedicated support team for one another. And I'm the moderator. Contact me to learn more at strategicgrowthcouncil.com. And this is our podcast. So if you're interested in learning more about organic growth, growth by acquisition, or potentially the sale of your company, this show will be interesting or useful for you. Thank you to our sponsor, Aclaro Growth Partners, a strategy consulting firm serving the middle market. You can visit aclaropartners.com. In every episode, I interview an expert or at least a participant in the world of strategy, growth, or M&A. And today I'm joined by Todd Russell of RSM, a broadline professional services firm serving the middle market with tax, audit, consulting, M&A-related services. Todd, welcome.
Thanks, Kit. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited about our conversation for a lot of reasons. Not only is your insight and perspective interesting and useful for us, but you're also affiliated with, a member of a peer advisory council, and so we're excited to hear your perspective on both fronts. So, why don't you give us 30 to 60 seconds of background on yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So I am a partner with RSM, and I sit in the firm's Tampa office. I am the Tampa audit practice leader for the Tampa market. And I've been in public accounting since 1994. Have worked in the middle market my entire career for either large, local, regional, and now a national firm, focused on the middle market. I've been with RSM since 2007 and originally started in our Orlando, Florida office and relocated to Tampa to be part of the team that built and grew our office here in the Tampa Bay market. So it's been an exciting time the last 6 years. And I focus, as I mentioned, on the middle market. I work a lot in the private equity space, so see a lot of mergers and acquisitions. I primarily work with portfolio companies, helping them, with their financial statement audit needs, as well as, being cognizant of other lines of service that we can offer them.
Awesome. So don't meet too many people that have been an accountant since 1994. That's a long time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You know your stuff, but tax law changes. So peer advisory councils, people call these different things. I'm going to kind of take a shot at it, and I'd love your help in sort of defining for our audience, our listeners, our viewers, what we're talking about. So we've got mastermind groups, we've got industry roundtables, CEO forums, peer advisory councils. I sort of mix them all up and sort of refer to them almost interchangeably, but essentially it's a group that gets together for intentional, dedicated purpose, and the purpose varies depending on sort of who leads the group. Some groups are focused on education and insights. Some groups are focused on networking. At Strategic Growth Council, we're more focused on solving cases, as I said in the beginning, kind of strategic support for partners. So everybody comes with what I call a case each meeting, or just prepared to weigh in on how to solve that case. So in your own words, how do you define what a peer advisory council is? Would you dispute what I just said, or anything you could add there?
Yeah, no, I think I think you kind of hit the nail on the head for sure. One thing I would add is to me, a peer advisory council is really a safe environment for its members to be able to share, business problems, strategy, thoughts, bouncing things around that they can do in an environment where they don't have to worry about a competitor sitting in there per se, because a lot of times it's people across, it's a cross section of industries, and that's done from an intentional perspective too.
And there's a confidentiality agreement that's signed, and there's a very um, structured process about what is shared stays in the room
Hmm.
and is not shared outside of the room. That's sort of a number of disciplines and processes that are very intentional, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I like what you said about trust and support, vulnerability. Can you give us an example of how that comes into play, or any experiences that you've had where that comes into play?
Yeah, it's interesting. The group that I'm involved with here in Tampa, I don't typically sit in on their on the meetings. It's more of a sponsorship, and I'd have connectivity at the beginning of the meeting. But obviously, from that confidentiality perspective, the group meets after. I'll kind of step out, and they meet for the remainder of the day that we're together. Um, but we did a kind of a mock meeting per se to try to kind of look at maybe recruiting some new members to the group and that sort of thing. And so, the group leader here locally in Tampa wanted us to sit in on it as well, just to get a flavor for it. And I was really impressed with the how quickly it seemed that trust was gained within that group, and there were people sharing different challenges that they had, and then seeking the advice of the group or whatever, and just the idea exchange was phenomenal. So that was one of my more recent experiences, and really came out of there encouraged and excited about what we were doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm gonna circle back to that. There are sort of two, hesitate to call them tests, but members have to be of a certain size and they have to be of a certain level in their organization. Partner in a professional services firm or a C-level executive in a company, and the company needs to be generating somewhere above $1 million or perhaps $2 million of EBITDA typically. But there's also a test that's more of a hesitate to use the word personality test because it's not literal, but to give our audience an example of an individual who would probably not pass that test is a CEO who was receiving some feedback from a consulting firm and sort of jumped in and said, "Well, you're wrong." And the consulting firm said, "Well, here's what the customer said, here's what the distributor said, here's what the competitors are talking about. So there's a lot of evidence. It's possible that you're not, completely seeing that whole picture." And he said, "Nope, nope, you're wrong. I'm right. And if I'm wrong, it will be the first time this decade that I've been wrong about anything." And so everybody chuckled nervously except him. He was dead serious. That individual would not be a good fit because he would not make himself vulnerable in a meeting like this. So what you described was, a mock meeting. So people coming in sort of experimenting with the concept of being a part of a peer advisory council. It sounds like they were all well suited to be involved because they were comfortable enough opening up and sharing their dilemmas and weighing in. So you have to be not only willing to make yourself vulnerable, but also willing to receive feedback
Hmm.
that sometimes is controversial and might make some people defensive. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think self-awareness and openness to growing are two very key components for somebody to be in a group like that.
yeah, yeah. And I should say, a lot of there are a lot of industry roundtables, which are quite different because, as you said, as you pointed out, there's a benefit in diversity and there's a benefit in sort of cross pollinating. So we don't want all CFOs. We don't want all people who are manufacturing because there's benefits from cross pollination that happens when you combine people from different industries that are tackling the same sort of issue. So it's a very different purpose than the intent that an industry specific roundtable would have. So brand awareness, awareness of the value of a client's needs, prospects' needs, credibility, trusted advisor status. I guess where I'm going, Todd, is in your role as we'll call it a sponsor of a peer advisory group in the Tampa area. What is the primary benefit for you or for your organization? Is it brand awareness? Is it the opportunity to provide learning and insights? Is it something else?
I think it's a mix of kind of all those things, really. Certainly one of our biggest uh, goals as a firm, and when we started this office, was to build, the brand awareness of RSM in the market. And certainly by participating in groups like this, networking groups, other things, and being out in the market, that's an important thing. But I think it's really, it is a great place to um, build, valuable relationships with in the group that I'm with. They're all, generally CEOs or business owners, and even if that doesn't necessarily turn into immediate client work or whatever, because it is a long sales cycle, and you have to build those relationships. But it does help also with lending some credibility to myself or our firm or my colleagues that I bring in front of the group, and can help even with them referring other relationships or introducing us to other folks around too. So and we have actually generated some work, some engagement projects with certain members of the group, and the group that I'm with, we have varying sizes, and some are on strategy for us, some are not, but within our finance transformation practice, we've had a couple of folks that have really that's resonated with them, and it has led to some opportunities for us. It's just a general overall, I think, combination of all those. And then also our group leader is a very influential and well-connected person, and he and I have really developed a great relationship, not only as partners in this, but in some of his other organizations that he's involved with, along with just great mentorship, because he has really been around, owned a lot of businesses, been CEO, been CFO, done a lot of different things, and he's a great mentor to me as well. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I apologize if I missed this, but so when you were talking about the not on point or not on strategy, I just wanted to circle back to that. Do you invite your clients to participate in the council?
We have actually, as part of our agreement with the council, we were able to, refer or select some of our clients into the group. Um, I've got one that I think will ultimately participate and become a member. Some of the other ones I had reached out to, may have already been involved in a similar group, but a different sponsor or whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, we're certainly can invite clients, and that mock, strategy session or mock meeting that I mentioned, we had a couple of clients at that. So.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. So, why don't we talk a little bit about your firm, RSM, and where RSM fits into the what I call the ecosystem of middle market mergers and acquisitions. So, some of the people who are involved in the council are probably either acquirers or contemplating a sale, or involved in areas that are very relevant, probably from a tax and audit standpoint for RSM. But maybe just share with our audience a little bit more about RSM services for the middle market.
Sure, absolutely. So, M&A is such a there's such a wide breadth of services that really encompass all of it, and RSM, we actually serve. We really are a private equity leader in the marketplace. We serve just so many, not only funds but also portfolio companies, and have a very, very well organized national practice around private equity. So Within that, though, I mean, certainly we have the portfolio company audits, we have fund audits that we do out of some of our offices where there's more concentration of those. But when you think about really the things that go on and happen before an acquisition, you've got acquisition readiness, you've got valuations. Sometimes, and in fact, I recently was approached by a prospect that's looking to sell their business and they want a valuation done, and just to get some ideas of what their company's worth. Due diligence services are another huge part of our practice through our transaction services team, and that can be financial due diligence, it can be tax due diligence, a combination of both. Can impact. Um, it can be buy side or sell side. So if we have a client that is looking to potentially sell or have a transaction, and they will engage us on the sell side because they don't, they want us to uncover the issues or any potential issues or anything like that and deal with it before they're at a negotiating table with a private equity fund or an institutional buyer or that sort of thing. And then and then beyond the transaction, we have consultants that help a lot with integration and financial integration, people integration, operational integration, system IT, ERP design, selection, implementation, those sort of things. So, there's a really wide breadth of services that we provide across the board to private equity and M&A.
That's great. I appreciate that. I learned a little bit there myself. We do a lot of work with private equity, so it's always interesting to hear how other service providers play in the private equity space. I have also heard a lot of examples of the types of cases that are solved in peer advisory councils. 2 years ago, it was, hey, what's PPP money and how do I get that?
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's what's going on with the supply chain, or when are we going to officially go into recession, and when are we going to head out of recession? How long is this going to last?
Right.
And that's a good topic that might be discussed in a meeting. Not that necessarily the answer would come out, but there's a lot of food for thought and fodder that would come out of the conversation, particularly as it relates to maybe other issues like human capital. How do you retain people today, or the supply chain disruptions? Mm-hmm. Any other significant aha moments that you've witnessed, or topics that you've learned or heard about over the years?
I mean, I think when it gets down to just some, basic issues, perhaps maybe within the business, HR type thing, or some of those things, and how did you handle it? Definitely, but more global type things like the economy and just the general state of where we're at right now. Like resource constraints, and I mean, we're all dealing with it. We're all dealing with the same things, and it's how do you do more with less and still keep your customers happy, and still provide a high level of service and all those kind of things. So I mean, we see it in our industry just as much as we see it with our clients, and to me these days it just seems to take longer to get things done than it should or than it used to, and a lot of it's lack of or resource constraints or CYA or bureaucracy or whatever, but we're all dealing with those challenges.
So back to the peer advisory council concept. From my vantage point, I hear a lot about time. Time, not only time from the standpoint of, I don't think I have time to be going to a roundtable, even a virtual one, for 3 or 4 hours every month, or even 2 or 3 hours every month. And yet, the number one benefit that I hear about from people who participate in peer advisory councils is that they solve problems more efficiently and therefore save a lot of time. And at the end of a year, people were surveyed about their major benefits, and it was time savings, interestingly enough. From your perspective, what do you see members most excited about, or what do they appreciate most? Is it learning and insights? Is it connections and networking? Is it solving problems? Is it something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's learning and insights. I think it's solving problems. I think it's personal growth, being able to kind of add to their tool bag, for lack of a better analogy. But it really just because it's not just like the group gets together and just talks about their business problems or whatever. They are. There are intentional, there's books that they read, there's self analyses and different things like that that they read. So it's yeah, I mean, I think they're excited about just the personal growth as well as being able to learn from each other and then bounce ideas around too if they don't have an outlet for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something I hear a lot as well, is that it's not just business. It's, insights, feedback, perspectives, advice on family,
Hmm.
just general life stuff. So it's
Sure.
not just purely constrained to the business world. So that's good. So Todd, I've got a couple questions for you. Take them in whatever order you'd like,
Okay.
or make up a new question if you don't like either one of
Okay.
them.
Great.
How does your firm differentiate? How does RSM differentiate? And secondly, when I sort of look at the world of tax and audit and accounting firms, as I referenced earlier, I see this odd mix of other services that have gotten bolted on,
Hmm.
consulting and transaction advisory, and in some cases, investment banking and law and so forth. Um, what's going on there? So, how does your firm differentiate, and what's going on with the definition of accounting?
Right. Well, so we've always said one thing with RSM, and our like mantra is the power of being understood, and we really seek to differentiate ourselves with our clients by really truly gaining that deep loyal relationship, understanding them, understanding their needs, understanding their business from all angles. And it's not about just sitting there telling you how great we are or what we know, but it's more about listening and being consultative, in that process, in that relationship. And we do that through, um, really being intentional about spending time with our clients on a regular basis, not just when we're, from my perspective, like not when I'm just out performing the audit or whatever. Really trying to understand the needs around their timing, their growth, their strategies, and helping them prepare for that. And so, at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, it's our to be that first choice advisor, to be in with our clients on multiple levels, not just one line of service, create that sticky relationship. And that's the type of folks that we hire, and within our culture, it's very much ingrained, and is uh, really that client delivery experience. But the other side of that is making sure that our people are taken care of, and that they're well trained, and that they're um, excited about what they're doing, so that they do deliver that client experience. And so we very much focus on our people experience and our client experience, where those converge to really build those long deep relationships with our clients.
Really
So
interesting.
now,
Yeah.
yeah, so with what you're what's going on, and why are accounting firms adding different service lines or different things like that. I mean, I think it's a lot of it's just driven by the demand of our client base, and and what we're seeing in the market. So our consulting practice is the fastest growing part of our business, and has been for many years. And it's as we just continue to see more and more opportunities in the market for various services. We seek to try to fill those, again, to be able to bring that to our client. And I mean, but from our perspective too, I mean, you always have to think about professional independence, and the independence rules that we're subject to. And so obviously we have an extremely robust independence system and process to make sure that a service that's being provided by somebody that's sitting 1,000 miles away or whatever is not going to impair our independence, from an audit perspective, as well as internationally, and through our RSM international group.
Yep. Yeah. That makes sense. Good. So just, selfish question, I guess, for my own personal interest and curiosity. I've been talking to firms like yours about what I'll call a white label service. In other words, a service that would be offered by a big accounting firm or a big consulting firm or a big investment bank, to its clients under its own brand, not necessarily talking about RSM, but just broadly. And then that firm offering the concept of a peer advisory council to its clients. And the clients can choose to join or not join.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost could be partially deferred or what's the right word?
Subsidized.
Passed on, subsidized. Yeah, exactly. Subsidized by the professional services firm or not. It could just be charged to the client. Not every client, as we discussed, would be a good fit, right? Some might be too small. Some might not have the right personality. Any reaction to that concept? Good idea, bad idea? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think it definitely has some value, and again, when you look at just creating a value in your relationship with your clients, to be able to, offer something like that to them, I think would be useful, and it's also a great way to maintain that connectivity,
Right.
on a regular basis throughout the year, and bring them relevant information too, on a timely basis.
Yeah, I mean that's what I thought. That my thinking was you get to know that much more about your clients
Hmm.
and you get to learn what their needs are that much better and
Hmm.
interests. And then obviously the communication goes both ways. You get to communicate more about, your own services. So that makes sense. Good.
Hmm.
How about yourself? Goals, hopes, dreams. You've been in the accounting profession since 1994. So what are you going to do next?
Yeah. Well, I turned 50 last year, and so I've got about 12 years or so, left in the accounting profession at least. But personally, I mean, I want to get into some more kind of local office leader or regional type leadership roles. And because the two things that really energize me and that I enjoy the most about what I do are the people aspect of the business, and the growth aspect of the business, and that's something that to me is I'm passionate about it. It's fun. I love meeting people, dealing with people, leading people, that sort of thing. And so I'm hoping down the road that I'll be, more focused in that aspect of the business and the strategy, and really, the operations of the firm, not just the client service aspect of it. But I've got 5 kids, and one's about to graduate from college. I've got she'll graduate next year, and then I have 2 that will be seniors in high school, so I got to get them through college, and then I've got 2 that are middle school, and one's a freshman in high school. So personally, just getting them getting them through college and helping them be successful humans,
Yep.
is a big hope and dream as well. So,
Well,
but
I imagine you're busy on weekends. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Well, that's great. That's great. So our listeners, how can they contact you? How can they support you? Um, what do you recommend? What's the
Sure.
best way to
Well,
reach
I
out?
mean, probably via email, or my phone number. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me, and I can share that if you want. So my email is
Yep.
w.todd Todd Russell at rsmus.com. And my office line is 813-316-2266. So if you got
That's
anybody
great.
in the Tampa market, or even not in the Tampa market, I've got, a network all over the country. So happy to help if we can.
Beautiful part of the country for sure. I love Tampa St. Pete. So thank you, Todd. This has been really good and really informational and interesting for me. I learned a little bit myself, and I appreciate your taking the time to meet with us and share your perspective. Remember, visit strategicgrowthcouncil.com for all of our past episodes and to find the latest episodes. Follow us on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Put us in your listening queue, review the show, give us a rating. And Thanks for listening.
Produced by Heartcast Media.